Okay, first of all, thank you for joining me, and I want to touch on yesterday's disastrous appearance in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee by Jay Clayton, the president's nominee to be the director of national intelligence. It's a position of sacred trust and obligation to the American public and America's national security. And through his ceaseless evasion and stonewalling and his point-blank refusal to state basic facts that might offend the president, Mr. Clayton yesterday demonstrated that he lacks the integrity and the independence to be the director of national intelligence. It was a disqualifying and disastrous appearance for the nominee, particularly given the continued misuse of America's intelligence services and intelligence authorities and personnel by this president in the pursuit of 2020 election denialism and conspiracy theories, which brings me to the president's anticipated address this evening. Here's what's going to happen tonight. The world's most famous sore loser will deliver a primetime presidential sour grapes address to pursue his 6-year-old grievances about the 2020 election, while his war in the Middle East spirals out of control and the cost of living continues to rise for Americans across the country. I expect the president to reheat debunked conspiracy theories about the repeatedly litigated and audited and confirmed 2020 presidential election in Georgia, an election that Donald Trump lost. And let me be very clear about this. If the president declares Georgia's elections illegitimate, or if the president declares Georgia's sitting United States senators illegitimate, he is declaring Georgia voters illegitimate. It's Donald Trump who tried to defraud Georgia voters in that election. Donald Trump who tried to commit election fraud when he called Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and it was caught on tape, and you should play the tape for your viewers today, and badgered and bullied Georgia's top election official to, quote, find him the votes that he needed to win in a state where he had lost. Thank you again all so much for being here. I'll just close by saying that this is the last thing Georgia Republicans want Donald Trump talking about right now, but every single elected Republican in the state of Georgia should have to answer on the record today and tomorrow about the president's outrageous conspiracy theories. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to your questions, and I'll let my team call upon you. Go ahead.
Senator, you've been talking about this a fair amount since this broke on Tuesday. Do you think this is an advantage for your campaign that the president is going to come out here and sow doubt in the 2020 elections? Is this going to help you, do you think, in November?
Look, I think first of all, it is misconduct, presidential misconduct, to abuse the bully pulpit and to abuse intelligence authorities and declassification authorities, if indeed that's what he'll do tonight, in order to pursue his sour grapes election denialism, trying to overturn an election that he lost 6 years ago. And I think that every elected leader in the country, Democrat or Republican, has an obligation to denounce this. Two most popular Republican elected officials in Georgia are Governor Brian Kemp and Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. And why are they respected in Georgia beyond party lines? It's because they refused to help Donald Trump steal the 2020 election.
CBS News is reporting that part of this speech may also touch on claims that China meddled in U.S. elections. In your role on the Intel Committee, have you ever been briefed on anything along those lines? Do you believe those allegations have any merit?
I don't talk about Intelligence Committee matters, but I don't know what the president's going to say tonight.
Senator, you've been critical of what you see as the Trump family and Donald Trump profiting off of him being in office. There's a report today that his teleprompter operator made like $100,000 off Kalshi by making bets off of what he knew from the teleprompter. I was curious what your reaction is to that.
Well, there's a culture of corruption in this White House, and there's a reason more and more people are calling this the Mar-a-Lago Mafia. The president has pocketed billions of dollars personally, while he has driven the cost of living for American families to record highs. There was a report just in the last few days that the president may have accepted $2 million from a company under active trade investigation by the U.S. government. And I think part of the reason the president so fears defeat in these midterm elections is the prospect of accountability being imposed by the United States Congress under Democratic control.
What should happen with these predictive markets? I mean, should there be some? I mean, should they be? Some are calling for them to be banned. You know, that the government, people in government, should not be able to use them. What do you say about that?
Insider trading is clearly unacceptable, and there's clearly a need for some regulation.
Senator, if the polls currently show that you are up in multiple polls, including with Fox News, if that continues, and considering the president's attempt to try to, especially with China and talking in his speech tonight, if you win and even going up to the election, are you preparing to counter Mr. Trump's allegations that you may not win this election and that the 2020 election was illegitimate?
Look, I think one of the reasons that the president's reheating these debunked conspiracy theories and spreading new lies is because he's laying the groundwork for a potential challenge to the result. Another bad faith challenge. Remember again and again, you guys got to play the tape so people recall it, that the sitting president of the United States called up Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and demanded that he find him the exact number of votes to win in a state that he had lost. Unacceptable misconduct, and his misconduct continues to this day.
Are you preparing for it again?
Sam?
Are you worried that some of the safeguards that existed in 2020 do not exist in 2026? The Georgia State Election Board composition has changed. There's been overhaul at the federal level when it comes to election protection. What specifically are you worried about when it gets to Election Day and the days after this fall?
Look, my team and I are going to mount an all-out effort to defend voting rights in the state of Georgia, and it will be the solemn obligation of election officials to, without fear or favor and without concern for partisan outcomes, administer these elections fairly and properly and according to law. But I'll tell you this, here's what I'm hearing in Georgia. These attacks on voting rights are galvanizing a defiant determination to show up at the polls like never before. Remember that Georgia is the seat and the spiritual and civic home of the civil rights movement and the movement that secured the Voting Rights Act. And so when Donald Trump and his allies come down to Georgia and attack voting rights, they're just motivating people to participate in our democracy and to use their voting rights.
I know members of the Georgia delegation have been pushing for more information, but just to be clear, have you gotten any further information about the outcome of that Fulton County raid, where those ballots are?
No. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Everyone.
Thank you.